Power of Thoughts. Conclusion. God is one without a second. God is the all-powerful, all-pervading, all-engulfing, all-intelligence, all-kindness, all-forgiving, all-compassion, all-embracing love, infinite, perfect, omnipotent, omniscient, divine Father, divine Mother, divine Creator, divine Sustainer of the infinite cosmos. God is immanent in his many divine attributes of glory, grace, effulgence, power, compassion, kindness, joy, bliss, and love. God is all-powerful. All power belongs to God. There is no other power. The divine power is infinite, all-pervading, all-engulfing, and self-effulgent, and is projected and manifested through the cosmic consciousness in various reflections. Therefore, all other powers we perceive or are aware of are the reflection and projection of the divine power. The cosmos derives all kind of powers from the only source of divine power. But in our egoistic deception, we believe that there are different kinds of powers coming from different sources. All the attributes of the sun, such as light, heat, energy, life-sustaining properties, etc., are projected, reflected, and manifested through sun rays to sustain the cosmos. Similarly, in his benevolent grace, God spontaneously provides abundantly all the needs of his children, the creatures of the cosmos, even without their knowledge or asking. The infinite celestial attributes of God mentioned above are silently, invisibly, secretly, and immaculately reflecting and working consistently in the cosmos through his power and grace to create, develop, sustain, and entertain his innumerable children of the cosmos. We, the creatures, with even our limited power and intelligence, try to provide our babies with all their needs and comforts under the instinct of our parental affections. Therefore, it is unthinkable that such a loving, kind, gracious, great divine Father should have left his dear children to fend for themselves at the mercy of adverse materialistic forces. In fact, it is the divine power and grace that creates, develops, sustains, degenerates, and again regenerates all creatures of the universe. It is again God's power and grace that provides in abundance all the needs of his children forever and without asking. But we are unable to perceive and realize the benevolent divine law of providence in our egoistic illusion. Thereby, we create obstructions in the natural inflow of divine power and grace into our mind, which becomes stagnated and depraved with the wrong thoughts. In doing so, we invite all sorts of troubles, problems, and miseries and make a hell of our lives. The heavy clouds of selfishness, doubts, fears, conflicts, turmoil, confrontation, etc., engulfing the universe is the result and positive proof of our depraved and wrong perceptions emanating from our egoistic consciousness. Due to egoistic consciousness and superfluous faith in divinity, we deprive ourselves of the ever-flowing abundance of his kindness, compassion, grace, and love. The light of the sun is reflected into our room through glass panes and curtains. If the glass panes are colored and the curtains are heavy, the flow of light into the room is curtailed. Similarly, when our mind is clouded with wrong thoughts and perceptions of egoistic consciousness, the reflection of the ever-present divine power and grace on our mind is diluted and restricted. In other words, the inflow of divine gifts of love and grace is in proportion to our faith in divine power. The following illustration may help to elucidate or make clear the subtle difference between the primal divine power, and the illusory conception of cosmic powers working in the materialistic world. The sperm grows into a fetus in the womb. The fetus is being nourished and protected within the womb without outside interference or help. This process of growth of the fetus goes on invisibly, secretly, and with meticulous precision and ingenious perfection, in which the mother has no conscious part to play. It is solely the divine power working silently, secretly, and perfectly. In fact, this wonderful process of gestation, or growth and conception, is one of the awe-inspiring miracles of divine power and wisdom, but we take it as casual and fail to recognize it as divine power. On the other hand, the mother thinks that she herself has conceived, nourished, sustained, and developed the fetus into a baby. This is the egoistic blasphemy on the part of the mother. When the fetus is grown, it is ushered into the world as a baby. Here again, the divine power and grace work spontaneously to supply suitable milk in the breasts of the mother and instill the instinct of motherly love for the baby in the heart of the mother. With this motherly love, she cares for, nurses, protects, and makes sacrifices in the upbringing of the baby. As the baby grows, the divine power provides it with teeth to eat and also other human faculties. Here again, the divine power and grace works silently and secretly for the growth, development, sustenance, and protection of the baby into full manhood or womanhood, in which very little conscious part is played by the parents. But the egoistic parents think that the child has grown up with their own efforts and wisdom, thus denying the real divine power and grace silently working in this process. At both prenatal and postnatal stages, God's grace and power work through the body of the mother for the growth, sustenance, and development of the child. In the case of the fetus, the mother's body is unconsciously used as an incubator. In the case of the baby, God's grace and love descends and permeates the heart of the mother so that she can nurse the baby with tender care and affection. This motherly love is actually a reflection of God's grace and love, and the mother becomes a channel for the outflow of the divine grace and love for the baby. In fact, the divine Father who provides nourishment and protection to the fetus within the womb and milk in the breasts of the mother without the conscious knowledge of the baby and the mother, had created the vast nature and made the eternal law of providence to provide all the needs of his children in abundance for their growth, sustenance, and entertainment forever. In fact, the loving grace of the all-powerful Divine Father is all-sufficient for the needs of his children to enable them to live in and enjoy the comforts of peace and bliss in the heaven of divine kingdom. But it seems so absurd and strange to think that the human being, the king of all creatures and made in his own image, should be so unhappy, worried, miserable, and suffering in the veritable hell of his own delusions. It is obvious that there are two distinct, contrary, and opposite worlds existing in the universe. One, the world of peace, bliss, love, and abundance, or the kingdom of God's grace. And two, the elusive, unreal, self-created world of worry, turmoil, sufferings, and miseries, or the egoistic world of Maya. The former has roots in the reality of divine presence and grace, while the latter is based on false, illusionary, egoistic consciousness. But these two worlds are not different physical planes or spheres. They are culminations of thoughts, perceptions, beliefs, and faith in our consciousness, egoistic or divine. If we have fallen from the kingdom of God to materialistic hell, the cause lies in our own consciousness. It is therefore obvious that for the transition of our ego consciousness to divine consciousness, the process of our thoughts and beliefs has to be transformed and reversed, from negative and depraved egoistic thoughts of the materialistic world to positive and sublime thoughts of divine love and grace. It is so easy to discuss, give discourses, preach, philosophize, sermonize intellectually about this reverse process of thoughts, beliefs, and conceptions, but it is a very difficult task to emulate and practice this percept honesty in our daily life. This is because the false idea of I, me, and mine projected from the elusive ego has permeated very deep in our consciousness by consistent practice during so many past lives and has become a part of our self, and we cannot think or act otherwise. Therefore, our understandings, beliefs, and perceptions of things spiritual remain shallow and superfluous on the surface of our consciousness and do not touch or affect the core of our egoistic self. Hence, all this self-deception and hypocrisy is prevailing in the universe. In this self-deception of egoistic consciousness, we believe that we possess all powers to provide ourselves with all our needs, fulfill our selfish desires and aspirations, make our life comfortable and happy, solve all our problems, mitigate or remove our sufferings, make plans for the future, or guide the destiny of our life. But in spite of all our individual and collective materialistic and intellectual achievements, our problems, unhappiness, and miseries have not decreased or been eliminated. In fact, our problems, sorrows, and miseries have been increasing and multiplying manifold with the advancement of our so-called civilization, thus turning this world into a veritable hell. It is ironic that in spite of higher education, scientific achievement, massive religious literature, and unending social and religious propaganda, humanity is still groping in the darkness of egoistic illusion of Maya, and peace, happiness, contentment, joy, and love are still a far cry beyond the reach of humanity. The crux of the subject is that in our egoistic illusion, we entirely rely on our own illusionary power and intelligence, which is just a faint reflection or limited projection of the divine power. This illusionary power of mankind is the source of all evils, sufferings, and miseries of humanity, such as selfishness, covertness, pride, corruption, conflict, confrontation, quarrels, war, etc. According to the saying, power corrupts, and more power corrupts more, when we acquire money power, sword power, gun power, nuclear power, physical power, political power, pen power, intellectual power, emotional power, or psychic power, occult power, hypnotic power, magic power, tantric power, etc., we become more corrupt. Thereby we increase and multiply the problems, unhappiness, sufferings, and miseries of the universe of these acquired powers for our own selfish ends to the detriment of others. All these powers are developed by consistent efforts and hard work over long periods, but are useful for only a short span of life. They are liable to be modified, diminished, or lost in course of time by exigencies of life like change of circumstance, disease, age, mishaps, or death. Therefore, these acquired powers are temporary, fleeting, and elusive. With the development of these cosmic powers, our ego is boosted and inflated. It is only through our egoistic consciousness that we become aware of our separate individual entities. As separate entities, our individual thoughts, beliefs, and interests come into conflict, which ensue all sorts of selfishness, bitterness, hatred, jealousy, and confrontation. In such egoistic clashes, we are apt to abuse our petty powers to the detriment of others. In our egoistic illusion, we believe that these fleeting cosmic powers are supreme, and exclusive. We often abuse them for our egoistic desires and whims and to carry out evil designs. Hence, these cosmic powers become negative and harmful. Some of these occult and magical powers are antisocial, violent, destructive, and horrifying, creating more problems and miseries in the universe. Our individual and collective egoistic powers are the root cause of all problems, turmoils, sufferings, and miseries of the world. When these egoistic powers clash and overlap, the problems get intricated, complicated, and messed up. In trying to solve our problems with our petty egoistic powers, we unconsciously and inadvertently create many more problems. Thus, we are caught in a vicious cycle. To extricate ourselves from this vicious cycle, we again unconsciously rely on our own petty egoistic powers, which created this mess originally. This makes us more unhappy, frustrated, and miserable in this self-created mess. The corrupt and depraved state of our social, political, and religious affairs, obtaining our homes, institutions, nations, and the world, is the positive proof of that polluted thought environment and abuse of our egoistic powers. If and when we realize that our petty egoistic powers are inadequate to solve our problems or mitigate our sufferings, we shall turn to the higher spiritual power with humility and faith. This does not mean that we should not make efforts to acquire and develop our latent physical, mental, and emotional faculties. These faculties are gifts of God to the humanity and should be developed and utilized to make our short sojourn in this world more happy and comfortable and to guide others towards better and happy lives. In fact, all these human faculties are love gifts of the Lord to his children, and we are privileged to develop them for the good of humanity. With humble thankfulness and devotion, we should aspire for and seek the grace of the Lord for higher spiritual gifts of the divine kingdom. Like the sunshine, this grace of God is flowing eternally and is the only creating and sustaining principle of the cosmos. Our faith in divinity is the subtle fuse wire which can connect our egoistic self with the sublime divine self. Then the egoistic self loses its false identity and merges with and becomes the divine self, through which God's grace flows incessantly. However, when our faith in divinity is weakened or lost, we become negative and are thereby deprived of the divine power and grace. Like love, faith cannot be learned, taught, or acquired intellectually. Faith is a subtle feeling of trust, belief, and a condition of the heart and higher consciousness. Faith is kindled, ignited, developed, and intensified in our higher consciousness or intuition by sublime inspiration from men of faith, enlightened souls, through their personal contact and company, their sublime spiritual writings, their exemplary behavior and inspiring life, and the personal spiritual experiences of the aspirant. Faith is the only means of communion between the aspiring soul and the divine self. Such spiritual communion can take place only in the higher consciousness of the soul, or intuition. By such spiritual communion, all the attributes and powers of the divine self, God, spontaneously flow into the aspiring soul. When a woman conceives, she develops subtle affection for her unborn child, which she carries in her womb. Unconsciously and constantly, she conveys her subtle affections and good wishes to the fetus. The fetus receives these faint motherly affections during pregnancy, and tender motherly love is unconsciously implemented in the heart and soul of the unborn child. After birth, the baby continues to receive physical and emotional motherly love through tender care and nursing by the mother. In this unconscious, subtle process, the baby develops faith and love for the mother. To the baby, the mother is her provider, protector, nurse, God, and all in all. Her innocent faith in her mother is projected and exhibited in all her innocent childish babblings and pranks. Even if the mother scolds and beats the baby, she clings to her legs with tears of love and faith for the mom. Such innocent faith of the baby for her mother is very powerful, as it drives the mother to provide her child with all her needs without asking. The perfect innocent faith of the baby for her mother puts us, the grown-up intellectuals and wiseacres, to shame, as we have very shallow faith in our real, all-powerful divine mother. As the baby grows up, she becomes intelligent, wise, and independent, and her natural faith in the parents is proportionally diminished. In the degree the faith is weakened, parents' care is lessened, and in the end, the child is left to fend for itself. From the above illustration, it transpires that so long as we have unflinching faith in our all-powerful Divine Mother, we are unconsciously provided with all our needs, even without our knowing and asking. But when the egoistic consciousness dawns on our intelligence, our innate faith in divinity is weakened, and the inflow of abundance into our life from the divine kingdom is diminished, and we become prodigal sons, left to fend for ourselves in the vast materialistic world. The looking glass reflects the images of a single phase of the surroundings. We have to change the angle of the looking glass to get images of the other phases. Our mind is also a one-sided, subtle looking glass, which takes only the images of this materialistic world and forms ideas, thoughts, and opinions which in course of time become beliefs, convictions, and faith. By constantly seeing, observing, thinking, dwelling, and contemplating on the elusive phase of this materialistic world of Maya during so many lives, we have become unaware, ignorant, or forgetful of the higher, sublime, real world of God's kingdom. It is, therefore, obvious that if we want to realize the real divine kingdom, we will have to change, redirect, and divert our mind and thoughts from the present materialistic phase. But this process of diversion and transformation of our mind, thoughts, and consciousness is possible only in the magnetic field or aura of enlightened and blessed souls who live in the divine kingdom and enjoy the grace and love of the Lord. The human beings, with all the weakness and propensities of being influenced by the powerful gravity of Maya, in the darkness of egoistic illusion, are unable to aspire for or try to undertake the task of changing or reversing the process of their consciousness by themselves. In other words, a man of faith or an enlightened and blessed soul is required to inspire and reignite our latent faith in the divine power and grace. Thus, the reverse process of reorientation or transformation of our consciousness can be initiated, sustained, and developed by constant inspiration in the company of men of faith or illuminated souls. The newly inspired and ignited soul is then ushered and readmitted into the divine kingdom and becomes a beloved son of God, enjoying all the happiness, powers, bliss, joy, and love of the divine kingdom. His egoistic self is reoriented, transformed, and transmuted into the divine self, and he is no longer troubled with materialistic causal desires and ambitions. He is invested with all the attributes and powers of the divine kingdom by virtue of his spiritual inheritance as a son of God. If necessary, he uses these spiritual powers in response to the dictates of his inner self for the good of the universe. He becomes a tiny pinion in the vast drama of the cosmos to carry on his assignment with selflessness and dedication. He works for thee and thine in conjunction and in tune with the divine will. It becomes his loving service offered to the Lord with humility and devotion. In this sublime spiritual consciousness, God's grace and love becomes self-sufficient to provide all the needs of the soul in abundance, nurse the souls with motherly, tender care, protect and sustain the soul in the elusive world of Maya, solve all kinds of problems, eliminate all the sufferings and miseries, bless the soul with the divine gifts of peace, happiness, joy, and bliss, to bask in the cozy sunshine of divine effulgence, free the soul from the clutches of karmic law, enjoy the sweet grace and love in the lap of the Divine Mother. Such enlightened and blessed souls become desireless and content and are lost in the ecstasy of humility and thankfulness for all the divine blessings and gifts showered on them by the grace and love of the Lord. Having been admitted into the divine realm, the soul becomes a member of the genuine spiritual brotherhood and sisterhood, and is endowed with all the attributes and powers of divinity. Thus, it holds the whole cosmos in its palms.